What's happening, guys? Today we are going to talk about how many meals per day should you eat for weight loss. Alright, so meal frequency is one of the more hot topics out there. It's one of the more frequent questions I get regarding actual weight loss. Does it matter how much I eat? So the question is always like, should I do intermittent fasting, or should I eat 3 square meals per day, or should I eat 6 meals a day, or eat every 2 hours? You know, how should I space out my eating, or how frequently should I eat in order to lose weight? And thankfully there's some pretty good research out there that we can actually look at to answer some of these questions. So I'm going to talk about 3 studies, actually 2 individual studies and 1 meta-analysis, and I'll put links to all the studies in the description below so you can check them out if you want, and I'll put them in order of how I talk about them that look at this. So to me, the most important thing here is to look at total macronutrient intake. So we need to make sure we're looking at studies that have an equivalent amount of macros being eaten between the 2 groups, because if you have one group that eats more or less meals but one group eats significantly more calories than the other, then we have to look at that and go, okay, like it's probably the total calories and not so much the meal timing, right? So what we want to do is look at something where they equate that. So the first study did that. They equated macros, but they looked at increasing meal frequency from 3 meals to 6 meals per day, and they looked at a 24-hour expenditure but also a 24-hour fat oxidation. And they found by the end of the study that there was no difference between the 2 groups in either of those things. The only real difference that they actually talked about was the group that went from 3 to 6 meals per day actually found that they were more hungry. They had higher feelings of hunger than the group that did 3 meals per day. So that does matter, because if you're more hungry, you're going to be more likely to overeat. So a meal strategy that will help you feel fuller can have some benefit. Now, the second study I want to look at actually took a much more drastic difference in meal frequency. So this one actually looked at 3 meals per day versus 14 meals per day. So one of the things that you may have heard in the past is you need to eat every couple hours to keep your metabolism humming along and keep it in a good place. Well, this will obviously answer that question. If eating a lot, eating very frequently does that, then we're going to see a big difference in the study, right? Well, they actually saw no difference in fat oxidation or metabolism in this group. So whether you ate 3 or 14, again, really made no difference in fat or carb oxidation, and it actually saw an increase in protein oxidation to have the lower frequency, the 3 meals versus the 14, which actually has some benefits for lean body mass. And I've actually done a video about meal frequency with regards to building muscle, which is a little bit different topic than what we're talking about here, although it's not completely irrelevant, because more muscle does help build metabolism. But I've touched on this before, so I will put that in a link at the end of this video, or maybe in the description as well, so you can check that out. But regardless, once again, there was no difference, except the group that did 14 meals per day reported being hungrier. Again, so the more frequent meals showed increased hunger. Now, one of the things I do want to talk about the increase in hunger, everyone's a little bit different, right? So some people like more meals, some people like less meals. And I find too that anytime you just kind of change your eating strategy dramatically, it changes your hunger signals. So if you are used to eating 3 meals and then you eat 5 or 6 meals, that's probably gonna make you hungry, right? If you're used to eating 5 or 6 meals and then you drop it back to 3, that might make you hungry, right? Just changing your eating schedule in general, even if macros are equated, it just has a tendency to mess with hunger signals, and you just have a tendency to be hungrier until your body adapts to that. And I actually found that myself. I used to do I wasn't really intermittent fasting, but I did have a shorter eating window. I didn't like to eat until around lunchtime, and then I would stop eating right before bed. So it was usually like 11, 12-hour window. And it was just because I didn't like eating in the morning, so that's what I did. Once I started really switching to a more bodybuilding focused style training and wanted to increase my frequency a little bit, again for reasons that are touched in that other video, I found when I went from 3 meals to 4 or 5 meals, I was much hungrier, and it took a couple weeks for things to kind of normalize, and then I was fine again. So that's one thing we have to keep in mind. So it's not necessarily 3 versus 6 that's increasing the hunger. It could just be actually changing things, but I do find that a lot of people do tend to do better with bigger meals, less frequency with regards to hunger. Now, the last one we want to take a look at is this meta-analysis I was talking to you about, and this is done by Brad Schoenfeld, one of the masters. And this looked at basically 15 different studies that all kind of looked at this exact thing that we're looking at here, like trying to equate calories, equate macros for the most part, and looking at higher or lower meal frequency and seeing what kind of a difference there is. And they actually showed in this there was a small favor to a higher frequency for weight loss. And what they said though was this was all basically done in one study. All right, so there was 15 studies. Basically 14 showed no difference, one showed a more significant difference. That one study skewed the whole entire thing and showed just a small favor. So really, for the most part, it shows that it doesn't really matter. All right, so that's kind of the big take-home message I want to give to you now. All right, we're always looking for the magical solution, the one-size-fits-all approach, the best versus the worst, and how we should do things. But really, it just comes down to your total macronutrient intake. How many carbs, how many fat, how much protein are you eating on a daily basis? If you equate that, and you're just looking for a fat loss, it doesn't really matter if you do 2 meals or 4 meals or 6 meals or 12 meals or whatever you like. If you're hitting your macros, you're gonna see those same results. So it really comes down to your preference. How do you like to eat? Do you prefer to eat bigger meals? Do you prefer to eat smaller meals? Do you like to do it more frequently? Do you like to fast in the morning? And whatever you like to do is totally fine. All right, there's nothing wrong with any approach as long as you're equating macros. So, and the biggest ones being calories and then protein. Right? There's plenty of research too to show that it really doesn't matter with regards to carbs or fat if those two things are matched. So eat in a way that you enjoy, stick to your macros, doesn't really matter how frequently you eat, and you're gonna see results as long as you're in a calorie deficit. All right, that's all I have for this one. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I will be sure to get back to you. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more, and I will talk to you next time.
I'm addicted to the love that you're giving. Every minute, every day I've been craving.